So if we're talking college teams that have had an eventful few days, we absolutely need to talk about the Oklahoma Sooners. Because not only did OU get a huge flip from Texas Tech, but they also got a little bit of an unconventional win in the transfer portal. And today, we need to break it all down. But before we can, as always, y'all know the drill, I have got to hear from you. Hop down to the comments, give me a Y for yes or an N for no. Are you excited that Ivan Carreon flips from Texas Tech to Oklahoma? Let me know what you're thinking. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Hit that bell notification as I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it, and if you enjoyed the content, be sure to like and comment down below, as those interactions seem small. They are massive to content creators such as myself. But having said all that, let's jump right into this. And let's start with the Oklahoma Sooners' newest addition in their 2024 recruiting class, a wide receiver out the state of Texas that straight up towers over defenders. And of course, we're talking about four-star wide receiver Ivan Carreon, a prospect who was committed to Texas Tech, but has now since flipped that commitment from Tech to the Oklahoma Sooners. And Carryon is an individual that ranks as one of the top prospects in high school football, regardless of position, specifically coming in as the number 238 player in the nation, the number 35 wide receiver, and a top 50 player in the state of Texas, a state absolutely loaded with talent, and he plays his high school football for Odessa. So where do we want to start with this? And I think the best place to start, we have to give credit where credit is due, and Coach Emmett Jones continues to show why he was such a solid hire for the Oklahoma Sooners. OU had a need at the wide receiver coach, and they were talking about several different names. They arrived at Coach Emmett Jones, and it has been a phenomenal hire. We talked about the recruiting prowess Coach Jones had in the state of Texas, coming from Texas Tech, and his experience at other places in the state. That's being put to work with Oklahoma, and we're directly seeing the impact. He gets a big-time flip from a prospect that was committed to Tech and a prospect that Oklahoma can't wait to step on campus. Because we've talked about this several times. OU had a legitimate need at wide receiver, and we've seen them try and address it via the transfer portal, but they are absolutely trying to address it in this recruiting class, where Carryon is now the fourth wide receiver in the class of 2024. But let's talk about what he brings to the table, because you cannot teach 6'6", 196 pounds. This is a player that if he continues to gain weight, if he continues to grow, he could easily slot into tight end and be an utter mismatch and be a nightmare for defenses to try and cover. However, as it stands, he is a really fun wide receiver to watch play football. Not only can he win by just straight up using his height to high point a football, he uses his physicality. And this is something I love. This is something I talk about whenever we talk about big body wide receivers or tight ends. I love it when I turn on the film and they already show an understanding of how to use their size to box out defenders and make the quarterback make safe throws. If you can get your quarterback to throw you the ball and you can box out a defender where you are the only person that can make a play on that ball, that's a safe conversion, and that's exactly what you're looking for in college football. This is the type of player that already displays that understanding, and so if he continues to grow, he already knows how to utilize his frame to win matchups. That's something I love. You just can't teach this size, and I think it's super intriguing whenever we're talking about a 6'6" wide receiver. I mean, this is basketball height on the gridiron. I'm super excited to see what the future holds for Carryon, because I think one thing we can all agree on, whether he's playing wide receiver, whether he's playing tight end, he's got attributes that are going to make him a nightmare for defenses to try and stop. I can't wait to see not only how he's utilized by the Oklahoma offense, but how defenses try and scheme around him. So that's going to be something really fun to watch. What does this mean for OU's recruiting class, though? Well, we've talked about how Oklahoma was in a position where they had established great relationships with several prospects and that they could be about to take off. And they've been able to get several commitments over the past few weeks, but I think the month of July is going to be big for the Oklahoma Sooners. I'm very excited to see what work they're able to do, what commitments they're able to land, and I think we all need to keep our eye on it. But now let's talk about the unconventional win Oklahoma got out the transfer portal, because many of you may have raised your eyebrows when I said that and thought to yourself, I don't remember us getting anybody out the transfer portal. Well, that's why I said it's an unconventional win. Offensive lineman Aaryn Parks for the Oklahoma Sooners entered his name into the transfer portal just a few days ago, however, has since withdrawn it. And to me, That's a big win for OU. Look, we talked about this in the live, that if Bill Bedenbaugh was not the offensive line coach at Oklahoma, I would have a few questions as to what that offensive line for the Sooners is going to look like. They lost several pieces along that offensive line, pieces that went high in that NFL draft. And because of that, I think it's only natural that you ask the question, how are you going to replace that production? Now, since Bill Bedenbaugh is there, we give him the benefit of the doubt. He's done this time and time again. He is one of the premier offensive line coaches at being able to get guys in, develop them, and send them to the NFL. So we kind of give the Oklahoma Sooners the benefit of the doubt, and deservedly so. That being said, you cannot argue with depth, especially if that depth has shown they can play football. And that's exactly what Aaryn Parks did whenever Oklahoma played Florida State. OU had several offensive linemen opt out of that game as they were getting ready for the draft. Jacob Sexton slides into left tackle and gets hurt real early in that game. In comes Aaryn Parks. And something else important to note, if you look at the depth chart that was released before the Florida State game, he was listed as the backup left tackle and backup right tackle, meaning he understands how to play left or right. If in the event an injury does occur, you want to be able to look at your depth chart and say, that's a guy that I know we can slide into this offensive line, and I'm not worried at all about missing a beat. That's why I thought this was a great win for the Oklahoma Sooners. An unconventional win, but a win nonetheless. Being able to keep an offensive lineman that was already accustomed to what you do, that already knew the offense in the building, I do think that's a big win, especially because he was number 2 on that depth chart at both left tackle and right tackle for the Florida State game and ended up playing. He knows the system, he knows the offense, he knows the guys. It's a winning combination, and I think if you're an OU fan, you've got to be over the moon about how the news has come down the last few days. OU is in the midst of several big-time battles. We're going to be keeping up with it all, but until then, hop down in the comments. Let me know what you're thinking. That's it. See ya.